Is Kansas City's new streetcar line in jeopardy? Now a lawsuit has just been filed challenging the project's funding. Also this week, is it a question of broken promises on healthcare? We pour through a major legal judgment against the Metro's largest hospital chain and have our own in-depth report. Big positive news at the GM Fairfax plant in KCK. And remembering this week, a person some are describing as Kansas City's First Lady. Greetings everyone, I'm Nick Haynes and thanks for being with us again on the program that goes beyond the soundbite and takes you behind the headlines, making news in Kansas City. Dissecting the news this week, KCTV5 Chief Investigative Reporter Stacey Cameron, Sam Zeff, who's joined the KCPT team on in-depth news assignments as part of our expanding journalistic coverage, Jeff Fox, business editor at the Examiner newspaper, and from the Kansas City Star, reporter, columnist and blogger Dave Helling. Construction is scheduled to start this summer on Kansas City's new 2-mile downtown streetcar line. But is that work about to go on indefinite hold? A lawsuit is filed this week in Jackson County District Court challenging the legality of the 1-cent sales tax that funds much of the project. But who's behind the lawsuit? Dave Helling, you were reporting the story this week. Who is behind it?
Well, two plaintiffs, a woman named Sue Burke, and then a gentleman known to most of us as Stretch, who owns Grinders.
And he was on our debate show on this issue.
Yes, both property owners in the district that is being taxed to build the streetcar. There are suggestions that others may be behind this effort, but there are two named plaintiffs. And the lawsuit they filed suggests that both the transportation district for the streetcar is illegal and the method of voting on it was unconstitutional.
But there was no organized opposition when the election came up. So why now?
Well, because the business owners, some business owners, not all, in the district think that taxes are onerous. And we've talked about this on the show over the years, Nick, as this has been discussed, that the taxes are high. They don't want to pay the sales tax. The property tax is up there pretty good, and they feel like they should have had a vote on it. So it's just another step in the process to try and halt this tax collection, which begins in April.
Stacey.
Well, one of the reasons might be a technicality in terms of the law. There wasn't the ability to challenge that tax until it actually passed. And so now it's a ripe issue for litigation. And as taxpayers, they may or may not have standing to sue. So I think in terms of the business owners who wouldn't have been eligible to vote in this, they really couldn't move on this until the tax was passed. And now they could potentially
Really?
sue.
I mean, it just seems to some people, certainly advocates of this is just all sour grapes. They're doing anything they can to kill this.
Well, and that might be correct. I mean, you're talking about business owners. I think the one part of the lawsuit, which is completely out of the norm, is saying that it's the taxation without representation. If you don't live in the district, then you don't have a right to vote in that. So politically, they may have gotten the ball rolling a little bit earlier, but as far as legally, this was probably the smart move to make.
Just quickly, the city went to court early on to try and sort of preempt this legal step by, in essence, asking a judge to declare it legal before the vote ever took place, which actually happened. So there's an interesting question as to what basis these property owners might now pursue these remedies in district
This has
court.
been so important to the mayor. If indeed there are legal problems here, won't the city find some other way to make this happen, even if this was struck down, this potential part of this financing, because they're not going to be beholden just to this part. There were also property tax elements
Well,
to
they're
this
challenging the property tax as well, though, Nick,
okay.
because of the way it was voted on. They say that was unconstitutional. Everyone you talk to, if they prevail, if the plaintiffs prevail, the mechanism for funding the streetcar will be irreparably damaged. Now, they may, you know, there will be appeals, but if the suit prevails, they won't have a way to pay for it, frankly.
There was no way to pay for it?
Well,
there's
dozens of ways to pay for it, but this one's been approved by voters, put in place. The engineering has started. The authority exists. It would suffer a major setback if the suit prevails.
My question here is, you know, after this tax passed and the streetcar line it apparently is going to go in, Jackson County jumped on this, and so is this a way to sort of head that off at the pass?
Well, let's ask Jeff Fox that question, because you're out there in Jackson County speaking to Jackson County officials. I mean, does this have a chilling effect on that plan?
Well, potentially. I mean, it's early, but the plan that the county executive, Mike Sanders, has is based mostly on commuter rail. And it would come down to 3rd and Grand, which is the north end of the streetcar line. So the two would work together. The first couple of lines would run out to eastern Jackson County, one to Independence, Blue Springs, Green Valley, and one down to through Raytown to Lee's Summit. Sanders has said probably going to go to the ballot in August, probably a 1 cent sales tax countywide to get that going. Eventually, of course, the plan is 6 lines, the airport, Liberty Kearney, Speedway, and Grandview, I think.
As policy matters, these are very different, the Sanders plan and the streetcar. As political matters, though, they may be linked in some ways because they rely on sales taxes. Think about this for a minute, Nick. In the Power and Light District, there's already a 1 cent sales tax to build the parking garages. Then the streetcar is another cent on top of that. If the Sanders plan passes, there would be another cent on top of that. Right. And then there's some discussion of a statewide transportation sales tax would be yet another penny. So you're talking 15 cent sales taxes in that district. That's pretty astonishing.
You're also talking about, yeah, the county piece of it is the 1 cent sales tax, presumably it might be a half cent. They've done polling. It polls pretty well. But I think the issue you're getting at is how does it cloud things? If there's litigation going on, and if there's a question out there, is there going to be a streetcar, is there not going to be a streetcar, I think that makes the county's job harder in saying, here's the plan, here's what happens.
But
the two things need to work
together. But a 1 cent
together.
sales tax in Jackson County does poll well, you say?
Yeah.
And we had the county executive on this program, and he says, he's got all the support from the mayors of all of these jurisdictions in Jackson County. Is that true in your own reporting?
No, they want it yesterday.
They do?
They would like to have it.
And that's not just the county executive saying that?
No, I mean, a good example would be Carson Ross, mayor of Blue Springs.
Okay.
Absolutely sees this as a way to help revitalize downtown Blue Springs, which they're making a big push to do.
Stacey.
To draw back to the suit here in Kansas City, however, there is a good point of merit in this suit where it's claiming that this sales tax that was just voted on earlier this year, or last year I should say, is stacking on a 1 cent sales tax that already exists. And the code, the language is a little questionable. A judge is going to decide this, but they very well may be right that there's already a 1 cent transportation sales tax in place, that if the court decides that this is a stacking, then that financing scheme will be completely knocked out.
Okay, I do need to move on, but so is City Hall getting nervous about this, Dave?
Well, they think they'll win on the merits. They're fairly confident of that, but whenever you get into court, things can change.
Okay, it was a story that broke so late last week we weren't able to discuss it. A Jackson County judge awards the Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City $162 million in a judgment against the owner of the largest hospital system in our metro. The foundation sued HCA, which in 2002 purchased all of the former Health Midwest hospitals, alleging it had not delivered on promises for charitable care and capital improvements at the facilities, which include Overland Park Regional, Menorah, and Research. It was a massive ruling that captured national attention, including a story in the New York Times. KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff poured through the 140-page court ruling this week.
To understand just how big this ruling is, you have to understand just how big a footprint HCA has in Kansas City. Anchored by Research Medical Center on Meyer Boulevard, HCA has 9 hospitals in Missouri and Kansas that ring the metro. By some estimates, it commands 35 to 40% of the market. And HCA is a behemoth, the largest for-profit healthcare company in America. It showed a $360 million profit in its last quarterly report. Make everybody understand the significance of this opinion from the Jackson County Circuit Court.
It vindicates the interest of all those neighborhood people who became concerned when the deal was first announced.
Landon Rowland is the former chairman of the Kansas City Healthcare Commission and someone who was worried about HCA from the very beginning. Not only was it a for-profit company buying nonprofit hospitals, but it was the largest transfer of nonprofit assets to a for-profit company in the history of the country.
These hospitals were largely created by religious groups or religious authorities, some of them as late as in the late 19th century.
We had a great concern about Health Midwest, of course, first going out and then selling, and possibly selling to a for-profit hospital organization.
Bishop Mark Tolbert from Victorious Life Church was in those early talks with HCA. He too was worried about turning over charity hospitals to a for-profit corporation. but he believes HCA has held up its end of the deal.
I still feel that if HCA, because they have proven themselves to be good community partners, they've done a lot of things up and down Prospect. They're working with some community development organizations to try and improve those areas. Even on Truce, near where the old Baptist, they're talking about putting in senior citizen living, which is something that we need in the urban core.
To ease the way for this unprecedented hospital deal, HCA agreed to some things the community demanded. It funded 2 healthcare foundations, one in Missouri and one in Kansas, which make health-related grants. But it also agreed to 2 things central to the lawsuit: to spend $450 million to upgrade existing hospitals, and to provide $500 million in charity care. In a 140-page ruling, Jackson County Judge John Torrance said HCA failed on both accounts. In 2002, these Health Midwest hospitals, 8 in Missouri and 3 in Kansas, were starved for cash and in desperate need of repair and upgrading. HCA came to town and promised the community and regulators that it would fix them. But according to court documents, another plan from HCA began to emerge. First, HCA closed Baptist Lutheran Hospital. Then it closed Lee Summit Hospital, Medical Center of Independence, and Independence Regional Health Center. It then spent $343 million to build 2 new hospitals in fast-growing eastern Jackson County: Lee Summit Medical Center and Centerpoint Medical Center in Independence. And it seemed to me that HCA was looking to treat patients in parts of the metro where there's a pretty good chance they're insured.
Very hard to see how they could avoid moving the enterprise to where the dollars are.
In fact, this confidential HCA memo, entered as evidence at trial, said the same thing. The replacement facility, the memo says, is located to the east of the existing hospitals with a young, affluent demographic mix. Conservatively, the percentage of managed care business is expected to increase 43% by year 5. In short, fewer poor patients means more people with health insurance. We asked several times for HCA to appear on camera. It sent this statement instead. Obviously, we are disappointed in the court's ruling, and we intend to appeal. Rather than simply put money into the repair of old facilities, we built 2 new hospitals, spending hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure this community has high-quality care.
Now, HCA, as part of the deal, was supposed to also provide $65 million a year in uncompensated or indigent care, but according to the judgment, it was impossible to tell whether the company had met its charitable health care commitments because of the company's financial accounting, according to the judgment. So what is HCA's response to that? You covered the story as well, Jeff.
Well, they're going to appeal and keep going. They didn't accept what the judge had come with, so they're pressing ahead.
Sam?
I think what was astonishing in the ruling is they had no idea how much charitable care they had handed out. In one publication, they said it was $48 million. In another, they said it was $87 million, and in a third, $185 million. And this is what led the judge to rule and demand a forensic audit for every year that HCA has been here. And a forensic audit is really the CSI of audits. They will go back and match every purchase over a certain amount with the purchase order or the invoice or the canceled check to try and reconcile this and find out exactly how much did they give to charity. And there was some dispute over how much capital they spent, and they did in fact spend millions of dollars to upgrade existing hospitals, but there is some dispute about how much they actually spent, and that's what this forensic audit is going to determine.
Now, one of the implications of this is that HCA is also looking to purchase 2 more additional hospitals in our metropolitan area. One of them is St. Joseph Medical Center in South Kansas City. The other is St. Mary's Hospital in Blue Springs, which is part of the Examiner newspapers area. That has been a source of controversy that played out from last year and into now. Is there a sense of nervousness in that community now as a result of this audit?
There very much is very grave concern in Blue Springs about the future of the hospital, since HCA is the likely buyer, I mean, they're in essentially due diligence at this point. Some of the folks who have been at the forefront of this campaign have said that that could work out. It could work out fine. It may very well be that HCA has the resources needed to keep the hospital going, make the investments that you need to make. Others are very worried about what happens. And I think the piece we had touched on another piece of it, which is that hospital, both of them, but St. Mary's has its roots in the tradition of hospitals that come out of religion, come out of churches. And the worry is that that's going to go away.
Stacey.
Well, and this is the blueprint in the face of healthcare as we go forward, when we move away from nonprofit hospitals that were operated either by local governments or nonprofit charities, churches, and the like, to a profit sector model where you see the community connection go away, and there's good and there's bad with that. You start to lose the quality of care, the connection, but you also start to get these large corporations like HCA that can diversify and spread those costs out. And then we also start to see one of the reasons they purchase up these smaller hospitals is going back to Obamacare, where you see that there's going to be reduced rates of reimbursement for Medicaid and Medicare. And so to spread those costs out, hospitals like St. Mary's can no longer afford to stay in business, and they're selling. So I don't think this ruling is going to affect the board at St. Mary's from selling, and I don't think it's going to stop HCA from moving
And that's
forward.
a great point, because let's go even back in time when Health Midwest in 2002, they couldn't afford to continue going the way they were. That's why they sold to begin with. Right. We also have the story even in North Kansas City, where the city was looking to whether they can continue to own North Kansas City Hospital. Right. This is playing out in lots of other areas as well, Dave.
Stacey's exactly right, because one of the things that's happening in healthcare in our country is this consolidation, economies of scale. My guess is, because HCA is a public company, publicly traded, that the pressure will grow for them to settle this case. Now, I don't know if those discussions are going on, but you would guess that because of this judgment that was entered and the accruing interest that now begins to pile up, that could get out of hand pretty quickly for that company, and that there would be a real incentive for them to settle, and frankly an incentive for the foundation to settle as well, because the quicker they can get the money, the better. A big check 10 years from now will be important, but not that helpful. The other thing is I wrote an email to Landon Rowland right after this decision asking him if this reduced the need to extend the health care levy in Kansas City, because this penalty would presumably go for indigent care, and he said, no, still need the health levy.
Let me point out one other thing. $162 million is the floor. There's no cap on this. I mean, this can rise to whatever the forensic audit says it should rise to.
Okay, and I want to make 2 points very clear here. One is Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City funds healthcare coverage on the station. That's a very important point. Number two, not everybody understands what the Healthcare Foundation does. So if they get money from this particular judgment, from this lawsuit, what would happen to that $162 million? The Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City makes grants to organizations that presumably then goes to help healthcare organizations in this community. Isn't that correct, Sam?
Absolutely. They do all kinds of grants for that. Let me also be clear that the foundation that was created in Kansas with the proceeds from the sale of Health Midwest, that foundation chose not to participate in this lawsuit. So any judgment goes just to the Healthcare Foundation of Kansas City.
The CEO of General Motors heads to town this week to announce the biggest ever plant investment in the company's history.
I'm here to announce today that we are investing an incremental $600 million in this plant.
As you can see from this footage from NBC Action News, lots of jubilation this week at the Fairfax plant in Kansas City, Kansas, which employs 4,000 people. The automaker says their $600 million investment will make the KCK facility the crown jewel of GM's manufacturing universe. What is the significance of this announcement? Because they're not talking about, though, adding any jobs here.
Well, it isn't overwhelmingly significant, because I think everyone assumed that these improvements were coming for some time. I think it was just the formal announcement. But what it does do, Nick, is show that the automobile industry in Kansas City is secure for some time to come, both because of what's happening in Clay Como and what's happening in Fairfax. That suggests that, unlike other communities that are not Detroit, which have seen the automobile construction industry really leave, the Kansas City area is in pretty good shape for that for another decade or more.
And please, let me just put this up on screen and I'll get your reaction, Jeff, because Automobile Magazine last year listed the most productive car plants in America, and only one city had 2 plants in the top 10, Kansas City, and that is at number 1 was the Ford Clay Como plant, and number 10, Fairfax. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Sure, and what economic developers will tell you is it's just as important to hang on to jobs, to retain jobs, as it is to go land the next big project. And both of these plants illustrate that point. And that's why Missouri did what it did at Clay Como, and that has just spin-off jobs for decades.
Not only jobs, but high-paying jobs, quality jobs, middle-class jobs. Those are like gold to communities, and that's really what the good news is, it seems to me.
But we don't see ourselves as this sort of automotive capital in a sense now, do we?
No, I don't think
Sam.
we do. And when I saw the story, it really sort of, I thought, well, are we the new Detroit? I mean, the Detroit of Henry Ford and Hank Greenberg and Alex Karras, not the Detroit of today. But are we now the center of car manufacturing in the United States? We could make a pretty good case for that.
Yeah, Stacy.
Well, the interesting thing, I think, when you look at those lists, and over the past 20 years, a lot of the production and manufacturing in automobiles has moved from Detroit and it's moved to the south. So to be able to retain these and not lose this plant to somewhere like Kentucky or Alabama or Tennessee that's expanding, it's a big deal. Plus, all the collateral businesses that support around those areas, you're talking restaurants and little shops, it's huge for the economy going forward.
2 weeks ago, Jay Nixon was celebrating his re-inauguration for a second term as Missouri governor. This week, he was delivering his State of the State address, in which he called for campaign finance reform, more money for higher education, an expansion of the number of days in the school year, and made another push for lawmakers to expand Medicaid coverage for 300,000 working Missourians.
Republican governors in places like Arizona, North Dakota, New Mexico, and Nevada are using federal funds to strengthen their Medicaid systems. Not because it's the easy thing for them to do politically, but because it's the right thing to do. Here in Missouri, we must make the smart business decision, the right human decision, and bring the tax dollars we send to Washington back to work here in Missouri.
Hardly anybody standing up there, though, Jeff Fox. So, I mean, that is so important, though, to the governor. It's going to help 300,000 Missourians, but he's not getting huge amounts of support from a Republican-controlled legislature.
Right. The Republicans have veto-proof majorities in both houses of the General Assembly, and the leadership has said we're not going to do this. The argument that Nixon is going to make is that under Obamacare, hospitals are going to take a hit. The funding that offsets all the indigent care that they do is going to start drying up, because the theory has been that states would expand Medicaid. That's the little curveball the Supreme Court threw last June. They upheld Obamacare, but they took away the federal government's ability to compel states to expand Medicaid. Well, if they don't do that, the hospitals are going to lose both ways. They're going to keep doing the indigent care, but they won't get the federal money. So the argument that they're going to make is that these legislators are going to go home and they're going to hear from their local hospitals, and you think about rural areas in particular, that's a major economic driver. And if those people are worried, then maybe they'll get through.
But you've spoken to legislators in Jackson County,
yeah,
and they're still not into this.
Right, they're not seeing it happen. They may want to simply address the issue of rural hospitals directly.
What else did we learn from the governor's speech this week? Certainly we had he cannot run again. So as like President Obama at the national level, where we were told that he was now freed from the feeling that he had to run for a re-election again, we could see the true Obama. Were we seeing the true Jay Nixon?
Well, he did seem to be a little less fettered by his concerns about the conservative nature of the electorate. But he has a very conservative legislature, Nick, to confront on a wide range of issues. So the agenda was fairly modest, other than the Medicaid expansion, which is an all-in bet. Now, I know Jeff is right. You talk to lawmakers, Republicans, they have no enthusiasm for this at all. But you hear a few whispers that there may be a way to finesse it, to sneak it in, to do it secretly, to tie it, say, to tort reform so that lawyers don't get as much money from malpractice suits. So it isn't dead completely.
Sam.
I think we can't emphasize enough that Nixon's gotten a little bit of political cover by having Republican governors around the country step up and say yes to Medicaid expansion. I think that may be something that may tip it towards expansion.
And finally, she is being labeled this week Kansas City's First Lady. Civic leader and philanthropist Adele Hall has died. She reportedly collapsed unexpectedly while in Hawaii with her husband, Hallmark Cards chairman Donald Hall. She was 81. Flicking through the channels this week, I was drawn to an NBC Action News clip that the station found from its archives all the way back in 1996 when Adele Hall spoke without any gloss about herself as she was participating in the Olympic Games torch run.
Really, I do what I do in the community because I love doing it, and I enjoy the contact that I have with people and with organizations. So it seems a little strange to be honored for just doing what I like to do.
I think if you voted on the finest woman in Kansas City for helping the community and serving the community, I think she'd get the unanimous vote.
I'm amazed at everything she's done and how quietly she's done stuff. It wasn't look at me, what I did today.
Adele Hall will be laid to rest this weekend, and that is our Week in Review. Our thanks to our news reviewers from KCTV5, Stacey Cameron, and from The Examiner, Jeff Fox. From The Star, Dave Helling, and KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff. I'm Nick Haynes. From all of us here at KCPT, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.